Hello, ghouls and gals, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most timeless maps in Beyond All Reason's current pool. It, of course, is Bismuth Valley. This is the quintessential map for 8v8s. Every single player spawns in their lane, every single player goes up against their opponent, and every single player gets the opportunity to prove their mettle against whoever they should so end up lining up against here. So today, spawning right on the front line is a Cortex commander for the blue team. Goes by the name of Loza, hailing with 25 true skill. Gonna be showing us what they got right here. Going from the ZXD clan, apparently here. Loza, gonna be going as a Cortex commander into a bot lab here. Gonna be playing with some of those grunts, surely, maybe even some thugs, and almost certainly a couple of aggravators. We are in a bit of an interesting lane right here. This is the one lane that can sometimes get away with not going into too many units on the ground. They can sometimes pull off a transition into the air. You have to be really, really quick with it, and you have to be really on point with it to make sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, already having some change of plans here. Okay, we are gonna go for that air lab. Okay, I was gonna say this is the one lab where you can get away with it, so I wouldn't be too surprised if the blue commander was gonna do it, but certainly putting down the laboratory and then building it more than halfway, not an ideal start right here for the blue team, or at the very least the blue team leader, the blue commander here. All the way to the other side of the map and representing the red team, there's Shepherd in the Darkness here. Goes by the name of Shepherd 2043. I believe that's a Mass Effect reference, but anyways. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sure somebody can comment down below. Maybe Shepherd will even comment down below what exactly it stands for. Maybe they're just a shepherd, right? They just wrangle those animals. But either way, going to be playing as an Armada commander and going into some vehicles on the northern side of Bismuth Valley. Now, one of the quirks that I always point out about Bismuth Valley, there we go. We've got some nice lines drawn right here by Primatamum. I'm going to go ahead and delete those as I explain this here, as I explain it every single time. Basically, the reason, okay, and we've got a lobby full of artists today, drawing as much as they can. Yeah, scribbling all over the map. I believe if you hover over this, yeah, Control-click should automatically delete, and we won't have to deal with their scribblings. So, the point that I've been trying to get to for oh so long is that effectively you can either play with two commanders on the northern side. Oh, okay, I'm auto-deleting my own. I see why I didn't have that turned on. What a mess. Okay. You can either play with two commanders on the northern side or two commanders on the southern side if there's a misalignment between the teams. If two commanders on one side go to one of these and two commanders on the other side go to the other, then you end up in a weird situation where one of them is going to fall before the other. Obviously, just it's the way that 2v1s work in this game. You're going to have, I mean, unless you're really, really good, you're one of those top tier players. Yeah, it's very difficult to hold that line otherwise. Certainly takes a tremendous amount of skill to go up 2 versus 1 and come out on top. Not impossible, which is one of the things that always makes Beyond All Reason interesting, at least in my opinion, this humble commentator's opinion. But it is certainly a certain skill check. If that so happens, then you end up in a situation where one of the two of these is going to swing out from underneath, and then you end up in a weird situation where both players or both teams are flanking each other at the same time, and oftentimes whoever capitalizes on that flank first ends up getting the wraparound, whether it's like this or like this, and it cuts off so much metal to the other team that you end up in a really, really nice position. The southern side is kind of the opposite. It's basically just a solid straight up 1 versus 1. Whichever commander manages to micro their units and control them better typically ends up taking the cake here on the southern side. So we'll see if it's going to be Raiden, the orange commander, or Primatamum. Yeah, the cyan commander, giving me a hard time with their name here. Blitz is going to be going up against pawns right here. That's the T1 Armada vehicle versus the T1 Armada bots. Should be a good little matchup right there. Usually I feel like we see oftentimes Cortex bots versus Armada vehicles, so it is kind of cool to see it sort of changing sides ever so slightly here and instead showing us what those Armada vehicles can do to their fellow brethren. Traitors, maybe those pawns are yelling, but either way, they will clean up these blitzes lickety-split, and that is pretty costly. You got to remember the blitzes in general going to be more, well, across the board going to be more expensive, the vehicles, as opposed to the bots. Means that, of course, a little bit of damage in the backline, means, of course, that any trade you can take with the bots, as long as you can manage to reclaim a lot of that metal or even resurrect a lot of that metal, it's almost always going to be well worth it. Rovers in the backline, sniping 2 metal extractors, definitely well worth it for their metal cost. You can see 93 metal, so they've already paid off their cost to send them across the map here, and at this point, they're not quite done yet. At the very least, an excellent scout here as well, as we do see, indeed, the blue player's base, as well as, I'm sure, plenty of others. Yeah, the lime green player's base as well as the lavender base. We've also scouted the purple base here as well, meaning that we have a fairly good understanding of exactly who is going to be playing where. Ooh, that's a nice little pick right there. I was going to move the camera around, but I just spotted that right in the center of the screen. Pirate faction going to be taking down one of the constructors right here for Mars Draco. Ooh, can he get it? Oh, well, one of those was mismicroed just ever so slightly. Oh, set target was on the ground and not the bot. He tried to hit the bot, but accidentally missed. And that constructor will walk away with his life intact, just barely. Dented up to all hell. His nose has fallen clean off, but 15%. That last HP is really the only one that matters. Okay, a little bit of a run by over here on this northern side. Metal extractors haven't been taken here. We were certainly expecting to find more metal extractors than we actually did right now, so this is a little bit of a happy accident right now for the orange commander. We do, however, have these unguarded mexes in the back here. We need some units in the front to try and secure all those, and I think right now it's going to be a blitz. Pretty much the only ideal solution here as this pawn runs forward. No addressal right here, though, from the orange commander, and so that's going to be at least 3 dead metal extractors if we micro this properly. There we go. Yep, pawn's going to start blasting away at that poor, unfortunate construction vehicle. Get some of those metal extractors as well. This is a lovely little play right here. Absolutely what you want to be going for when you're going up against those vehicle players that rely so heavily on the tremendous metal economies of pushing far forward with their commander early on. It means they have no really effective defense against anything even semi-sturdy moving into their backline, and it means that you can capitalize on that by easily sending across a couple of these sturdier units. There's the mace now blasting away this constructor, doing about 6% damage per shot to that constructor. Not bad whatsoever. Constructor will survive, and that's a nice bit of micro, but it's going to cost us the metal extractor in the long run. Janus tank is out to try and blast it down here. And down it will eventually go. Well, okay. Who wins the 1v1? Janus versus Mace. I think the Janus wins. I think it gets its missiles up before the Mace can kill it. But just barely. 25% HP left on that bad boy. Definitely means that it is, hurting for a little bit of sturdiness, to say the very least. Now, an interesting situation up north here. Todd and Chips, another member of the ZXD clan here, apparently prevalent in this game, has decided to take over the metal extractors that would normally be going to the blue player, as the blue player has decided to go full into air. What this means is we effectively do have a 2 versus 2 on the southern side, except it's being microed by one commander. So this is actually a really good situation for the green commander, because it means that we have so much metal in the front to spend accurately, precisely, and all at the same time, as opposed to what can tend to happen is a little bit of a disjoint, where suddenly you have a lot of forces firing. Well, half of your forces firing at one time, and then your teammates' forces aren't joining in on the fight, and then you end up taking two bad fights instead of one really decent one. That happens on a smaller scale with a little bit of micro. Okay, we've got a commander drop over here. Well, not really a commander drop. I guess just more of a commander push right here. A little bit of mismicro, it feels like. Yeah, Pirate Faction just stepping a little bit too far forward here. 1 Chevron, 16 true scale to the Pirate Faction. Can't blame them one bit. Still learning the game, certainly. Probably a little bit unaware of exactly how dangerous those LLTs are, specifically to commanders. For anybody who might not know, I mentioned this in a previous video, and I did get a question about it. The LLTs are specifically weak to LLTs. The commanders are specifically weak to LLTs. They have the opposite of resistance, a weakness, that's the word for it. Just saw another commander go down to the corner of my eye. Ah, okay, there you go. Raiden also falling right here. The orange commander losing his life on the front lines here before a mass of vehicles is produced. We are sending Januses to the front line, but that is so many blitzes moving forward. The line is broken by the cyan commander, and that means that the green commander sends full force forward, and that's going to be more and more metal extractors falling. Yep, sure, shell shockers are going to go down here as well. Caught with their metaphorical pants down. Janus tanks firing away at the blitzes, but they can only get about 1 volley off before those blitzes get on top of them. Maybe a second one here. Ooh. Okay, 2 more. Yeah, there's 2 more. Okay. If the Januses can keep this up, then we might be able to deflect this attack at least somewhat efficiently here. Friendly fire is going to kill that metal extractor, but at the very least, we're killing those blitzes for it as well. 1 blitz at the end of all that manages to make it into the backline, but at the very least, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 metal extractors go down. Worth mentioning that is also a high value metal extractor that we did bring down right there, so definitely going to be well worth it right here for the blue team. Lovely, lovely plays. Counter aggression on the southern side. Purple commander loses their life. Wake and bake falls on the front line, face first into the dirt here. As suddenly we do have the maroon commander pushing forward with a couple of those bots. We do have a little bit of a run by over here. I'm noticing on the minimap a pawn has run through and managed to blast apart tons and tons of metal extractors. I mean, sure, Why not? If you can manage to pull it off. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4 metal extractors completely killed right here. Eventually, Grunt's going to clean all that up, but my goodness, that was a very efficient fight right there for Todd and Chips, who managed to get that Grunt out on the front line. We do have a forward vehicle bay as well. Todd and Chips actually struggling to spend the metal right here. Yeah, why not? Go for some of those shell shockers, those long-range artillery to support a infantry-based front line. Go for some maces, go for some res bots, that infinite sustain army, but put that really high-powered T1 artillery on the back end of it, and you've got yourself a fabulous pushing force, virtually unstoppable as far as T1 is concerned, because it's a very wide composition as opposed to a deep composition or a tall composition, which would be going for the tech transition, which we should see here any moment. I do believe, yeah, Primatamum has, Primatamum? I don't know. I'm gonna give up at this point. The Cyan Commander has reclaimed tons and tons of metal, should definitely be using it on T2 here. Looks like we're actually stabilizing the energy economy. We've gone very heavily into build power here. Wouldn't mind a couple of advanced solar panels. Looks like we got a couple solar panels here and there. Where is the energy coming from? We do have lots of energy. Not sure exactly where the energy is coming from right here for the Cyan Commander, but either way. Oh, there we go. We have a big wind turbine farm in the back. There we go. Open your eyes, Brightworks, and you shall find where the energy therein lies. As Centurions on the front line, that's an interesting choice. Centurions are so hit and miss, I feel like. Sometimes they get tremendous value, especially against lighter units like Blitzes or Pawns or Grunts, any of those, essentially what they're meant to counter. But they're so slow that oftentimes they won't actually be able to get into position to counter them. Now, if you have the forethought to put them in position beforehand, oftentimes one of the things that I struggle with, as well as many other people, and they can certainly do fabulous work, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing right here. As this Centurion does feel like it's putting up a tremendous stalwart amount of HP, pushing the line forward right now. Also, tons of medium tanks over here. Nice counter aggression by the lime green commander, forcing this army back right here, smelling that there was going to be some sort of an attack, forcing the army back to deal with this. Having to deal with one on the northern side as well, though, but we do have that composition of vehicles coming out. All right, lovely stuff. Beautiful micro right here by Todd and Chips. I really do like what we're seeing right here. Finny Barca getting into the fight at this point. We're trying to deal with run-bys, I do believe, is why this army is so far pushed back, but its left slot completely exposed on the front line. There go a whole bunch of those medium tanks. It's going to be so hard to counter those with just aggravators, the rocket launcher bots of the T1 Cortex variety. They are technically the counter, but there's so many shell shockers built here, and even if the 1 or 2 or 3 of those Janus connections manage to land, you stand to lose so much for each and every one of those. You have to keep your Rocketeers microed constantly, your aggravators, pardon me, the Cortex Rocketeer. Really important that we keep these well split up. There we go. We do have a formation queue going up here, so at the very least we're going to be splitting these up as best as possible, but it is certainly very difficult to maintain that. Shell shockers caught without their escort. Not bad. In combined, I think Slot and Fenny Barca have enough units here to push all this back, but it's definitely not a comfortable day when you're losing this much ground on the front lines. Those metal extractors, very important right here. Big old bombing run coming in to equalize the tides here. Wind turbines way too close together right there for the Red Commander, and that's going to be all of the E-converters, all the build power, virtually everything for the Red Commander goes down. My goodness. The entire base blown to smithereens right there. Only the advanced solar panels, the only thing sturdy enough to survive this. Beautiful, beautiful bombing run. Could not ask for a better bombing run, better timed or better placed. Would love to see maybe one of these split off to kill these metal extractors in the back. I think we've thoroughly bombed this facility, maybe taking out the lab here at the last order of business and moving along to better targets. We don't have our scouting plane anymore, so definitely going to be tricky to bomb any of these other facilities over here, but there is a T2 lab up and running for solar energy. It would be nice to blow that to smithereens as well, but certainly shutting down the Red Commander here with how forward that commander has been, and also dumping so much metal into a bunch of gauntlets on the front line could certainly stall out this push. Now, Finny Barca has to take advantage of this. Finny Barca and Slot need to take advantage of the massive opening that's been done right here by the blue commander. If we're not going to take advantage of that, then it is entirely wasted, and that could be a huge, huge blunder right now for the blue team. That's going to be the hot pink commander going down right there. Big thanks, overstepping their bounds right here, getting caught out by a couple of those Januses. Only takes about 5 Januses to blast a commander down from full health, 5 or 6, somewhere in between that number. Means that those Janus tanks can really put in some serious work against a commander that strays just a little too far past their escort of T1 medium tanks and the like. Speaking of likes, you should probably like this video. If you're enjoying and you want to propagate bar throughout the known universe, it does help quite a bit. Sends the algorithm the message that Beyond All Reasons, an up-and-coming and very well worth watching Beyond or RTS game. It's beyond all reason in the eyes of the algorithm. I don't know. A wiser wordsmith than I might make that that problem work. But anyways, Don Draper dealing with the agitator down here. That's always, well, agitating. I guess living up to the name here. Very difficult to deal with when constantly it is barraging your units over here. I think those medium tanks going down to the D-gun right here, though, will secure it all for Pybro, who is trying to hold the line quite desperately. Oh, nice D-gun right here from Don Draper, too, though. Oh, Commander goes down in the last shot right there. That heavy laser tower is certainly putting in some good work here, blasting apart any of these other units that are moving too far forward here as well. And the line, I think, is well hold. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have more and more units streaming in here, but every second we park these units over here, the agitator and the heavy laser tower are just getting more and more value, and I don't like it one bit. Commander deaths, left, right, and center. I feel like I can't keep up with all of them going off around the map. I just need the thermonuclear explosions and the fallout right here. Lavender Commander goes down. The red Commander is dwindling on forces. Ooh, we started up a T2 lab. That's greedy. That's exceptionally greedy. With 72 energy production and 12 metal production, we've been handed a bunch of metal production from the teammate over here, but no energy production up and running quite yet. Yeah, we're building a lot of build power, but build power is also very energy dense. Red Commander is definitely struggling to get a hold on the energy economy. T2 tanks moving down on the southern side. Getting heated in the chat, by the way. I was just watching that for a second. Lightning tanks moving on the southern side, and this is an enemy that has just completed their T2 transition, does not have their T2 units on the field yet, at least not in mass. We do have a single Jaguar tank about to pump out of the lab, but a single Jaguar tank does not an army make. Wow. Lots of pings here. The morale of the blue team is falling apart right here, despite them having a definite lead, at least in the energy department. Metal department too, actually, up by about 40 metal per second here. There go the lightning tanks moving forward. Soaring at cat-like speeds are the Jaguar tanks. Jaguar is definitely the glass cannon of tanks in this game. Very high DPS overall. Very, very low health. Thin armor plating, big gun. Makes them ideal for raiding though, because it means they're very, very quick. There they go, blasting apart a bunch of the build power, taking down that T2 lab, trying to shut down whatever they can. T2 lab will stay up intact. T1 constructor also still remaining. Oh, wind turbines still too close together. Gotta space them out at least one click to prevent that chain reaction. Might have saved this poor, unfortunate yellow commander, but now we have this lightning tank in the background continuing to ravage the economies. And my goodness, 3 metal extractors go down right there. Another commander falls on the front lines. Hell has broken loose across the entire battlefield. The orange commander struggling immensely here. The T2 transition has been well on set for the cyan commander for a good long time. Means we're gonna have way more metal available right now for prime atom. Only thing I'd like to see more of is metal extractors taken on the enemy side of the map. You can imagine claiming these metal extractors here, these 2.8s that are very, very valuable. Claiming them as T2 metal extractors would be extremely, extremely useful. Looks like the yellow commander will tap out of this game and hand everything over to the maroon. Well, actually, yeah, just handing everything over to the maroon commander rather than resigning. Typically slightly worse than, oh my goodness, that's a Centurion ball. Hold on, I want a screenshot of that. The resign function works a little bit better because the person that takes over ends up getting all your metal and energy as well. But I suppose you can donate all that to them if you really wanted to specifically give it to somebody. There's an argument to be made that handing it to somebody specific is worth it as well, just for the fact that you can obviously choose a valid person to hand it all over to. In this case, the maroon commander being close enough to the front lines there. Not close enough, I would say, that they're going to be paying attention to this huge run-by of forces moving forward, though. Medium tanks continuing to slam the southern sides right here of the Tan Commander. That patch has just been assumed that we're going to fix it. But assumptions, what's the old age-old adage? Well, anyway. Assumptions do not a good bar player make. There we go. Maybe that's the butchering of 2 phrases into one that makes sense. Metal extractors falling left, right, and center. The economic pressure has been tremendous from the blue team. The entire game, it feels like they've been continually laying on the pressure despite overwhelming positional advantages from the red team. The run-bys, the damage from the attacks that they've done have not been cleaned up, and not very well, at least not well enough to make up the difference here. And that's going to leave the blue team with an advantage, despite not looking like they have an advantage, despite feeling like they're falling behind because the lines are moved so far forward. The metal extractors not being claimed and not being upgraded to D2 means that we are, in fact, at a blue team advantage overall. What a strange game. Shell Shocker's definitely out of their league at this point. It's time that we invest heavily into some T2. I think it's about time that we start disassembling all these. Still recovering from the electric crisis right here from that earlier bombing run. Whoa, flak truck's in just the right position here. Beautiful, beautiful flak truck positioning. Shoot down those bombers. Wonderfully done. Ooh, they still get the E-converters, though. Nicely done. One of the bombers manages to squeak through. You know what? For flak trucks shooting right over those, they still managed to take out tons and tons of those wind turbines, eventually falling here, but yeah, not bad. I mean, the E-converters going down does hinder quite a bit of the economy right here for the hot pink player. They were relying on that to go for that T2 transition. We are getting those mexes up and running right now, but you can see the advantage of those T2 mexes. We're almost up by 100 metal per second right now for the blue team, just because we have the T2 mexes as opposed to the red team not having theirs. Medium tanks running by, but not all the way. Oh, that's all shell shockers. Beautiful, beautiful engagement right here. Yeah, medium tanks need to jump on top of all that. That is free kills right there. Caught in the middle. They're not sure whether they should jump on top of this or go support up north. I think jumping on top of these shell shockers is definitely worth it. You're not going to take a better trade than a medium tank versus a shell shocker. Not in any matchup beyond all reason I've ever seen, and I've seen plenty of them. Don't you worry. Rattlesnake up on the high ground here. That's kind of nice. Rattlesnake's very, very easy to get efficient trades with. You can see it just firing away now. Very passive, but constantly doing a little bit of damage here. Against the T1, certainly doing enough to justify it. There you go. Blasting apart those Centurion, blasting apart Maces, blasting apart everything. Not in and of itself strong enough to hold against virtually any army, but very, very good at denying an army from a certain space, or at the very least punishing them for pushing too far forward or staying too long in a certain area. Also punishing them for grouping units up, which is a very natural thing in Beyond All Reason. In most RTS, I feel like balling your units up tends to be basically the natural response to clicking everything to a single point. We do have a nice spread right here from Yummier Gravy, the Maroon Commander. It'll keep some of those poor Centurions alive, but you can see a lot of these are scuffed up right now because of the shots that they've been taking from this Rattlesnake on high. Beautifully, beautifully done. We have the Starlights up on the high ground here as well as a Pitbull. Gonna start firing away at all those, blasting them apart quite nicely. Rattlesnake gonna continue working, and there we go. I mean, the LLT's not the ideal solution to heavy tanks, but you use what you have. And in this case, it's just a whole bunch of LLTs to hold against the Centurions. And at this point, we've lost them all completely. Now, thinking about the math behind that, that was several thousand metal worth of Centurions. Would it have been better for the Maroon Commander to just eat up those Centurions, use them to pay for T2 and a couple of T2 units, and then basically fund a full T2 transition instead of having those Centurions on the front line? Well, you have to look at how much damage they were able to do, which was effectively none. We killed a single advanced metal extractor and maybe a couple of pieces of static defense. T1 static defense. Definitely not going to be worth it for how much metal. Can we please claim these metal extractors? My goodness. These metal extractors have absolutely lost the game right here for the red team. Unless we have some sort of tremendous play, this is going to be what I blame for the loss of the red team. Because you cannot afford to do this. In a game of Beyond All Reason, the metal extractors are everything. They're just too efficient to give up. And we have just neglected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 metal extractors constantly and consistently over this game. And it's just too much metal. It's just too much metal. Northern side is losing once more. Somehow, despite the red player being completely knocked out of this game for multiple minutes here, apparently the northern side didn't notice, didn't go for a T2 transition, didn't go for whatever. And apparently that meant that the red player was able to actually get their feet back underneath them. And now they're going for an anti-nuke. They have T2 production up and running over here. So this area has been well stabilized. Yeah, very, very criminal lack of aggression right here from Slot and the Powder Blue Commander, Fenny Barca. Both of which could have taken tremendous advantage of the fact that the red player was completely taken offline right here by those early bombers, and instead decided to just continue porking up and setting up static defense and fighting with T1 units when really they didn't need to. Heavy tanks, the Bull, gonna start blasting away the solar panels. The death of the solar panel will mean effectively the end of the Orange Commander on the southern side here. The T2 lab is already down, and the constructors have also fallen. There goes the last T2 constructor. T1 constructor in imminent danger here as well. And I think this has been an excellent push right here from our Cyan hero. We'll just call you Prime. The Canadian hero. Blasting apart more and more of these middle extractors whenever they can. Bull's doing good work over here. Another Bull continuing to push forward. Medium tanks. Good enough to kill the Bull, but not efficiently. Not quickly either. There we go. Decent enough surround and they'll bring it down. Accidentally rhymed. Means it must be true. Mauser firing away over here. We probably should finish those off. Killing the anti-air over here means we can move bombers through the southern side and into the bases of everybody over here. Tons and tons of wind turbines, still funding lots of the economy right here for basically everybody on the red team. Definitely would be worth it to go for some follow-up bombing runs. I've loved so far the bombing runs that the blue player has gone for here. Little bit of investment everywhere. We do have some grunts being spammed out over here. We do have the airplanes being pumped out here. We have a bunch of scouts up in the air. bunch of fighters here as well. No air for the red team, so those fighters are effectively preemptive. This advantage on the southern side is a slow but steady death for the red team. Medium tanks taking just about as good a trade as they can, though, getting on top of those Mauser. It's actually a mixed force of medium and heavy tanks. Going to be efficient regardless of their composition against the artillery pieces. Just a mismatch of unit types. And that's as good as it gets and beyond all reason. As good and efficient as it gets, I should say. There are those Jaguars in the base once more, blowing apart the economies right here of the tank commander. Those tanks are so frustrating to deal with. Their chain lightning attack extremely good against wind turbines. It's weird that a unit is specifically very good against static, you know, economy structures, but it is just the case that chain lightning effect tends to make those wind turbines explode rather ferociously. There we go, we have a missile truck coming up right here. We're sort of building an ultimate armada death ball right now. We've got the Hounds, we've got the Mauser, we've got the Shell Shockers, we've got everything except for some sort of frontlining force. Couple of medium tanks there, not really going to save you in the event of a full-blown collapse from a bunch of infantry units. That being said, our numbers are so vast at this point that it really does feel like we could probably stand to be a little bit more aggressive here. I think the pink commander here, Solar Energy, probably agrees. Gonna start moving those Hounds forward, and I think that's the right idea. We've definitely got more than enough force to break the static defense area over here. It's just a couple at Quaker. Not the end of the world. There they go. I mean, the thing is, these armies get less efficient with size because they tend to ball up, and it means that the Quaker's AoE can actually have a profound effect, damaging way more enemies than otherwise they would be able to. Sheldon Bull versus Hound Bull. This is the quintessential Armada versus Cortex matchup right here. We do have Twilights up and running too, which is quite precious. Twilights are the cloaked, radar jammed, you can't see me John Cena of metal extractors. Well, nice connections from the Hounds right there. Medium tanks rolling forward though, so there is an opportunity. If we self-destruct these. Ooh, if we self-destruct these. Ooh, okay, no self-D. Oh, can we catch anybody? Okay, I mean, we catch a little bit. Commander will be self-destruct over here as well. Oh, it takes out so many of the Shuriken. Oh, that was painful to watch right there. The blue player came in for the save with hundreds of Shuriken. Well, maybe not hundreds, tons and tons of Shuriken though. Ready to mop all this up, paralyze it all, and make it very efficient for those Hounds to take down. And the commander explosion just about killed each and every single one of them. There's like 2 or 3 still remaining up in the sky right now, and those will be taken down with the light anti-air missiles of the Jaguars. A definitive push right here through the middle of the map. Everybody decided to pull the trigger at exactly the same moment. This is why teamwork is so powerful and beyond all reason. The combined force just unstoppable here for the blue team. And just like that, Lazo loses their main, well, ground factory anyway. They're about to lose the air factory as well. Expanding both horizontally and vertically here is the blue commander, Lazo. Rocket Spider missing all of its shot, firing them directly into its teammate. And the southern side was never capitalized on. We do have a Pitbull over here, so that's quite nice. At the very least, cleaning up some of these T1 units, I suppose. Not the biggest threat in the world, a single pop-up turret, but certainly annoying to deal with. Reinforcements from the southern side have come to try and clean as much of this up, but man, those medium tanks, they are doing so much damage. This is the power of the medium tank, truly. Its ability to just survive to the backline. It doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, it doesn't have an insane amount of HP, but it is just enough to survive virtually any barrage of attacks until it gets into your backline and starts blowing apart your E-converters, your wind turbines, whatever it is. My goodness, the wind turbines are clumped together this game. Everyone and their mother learning their lesson about keeping their wind turbines clumped together here. It takes only a single spacing command. You just hit your wind turbine, hold Shift and Alt, and then you press Z as in Zulu or X as in X-ray to space them out or bring them back in that order. Just in case anybody's curious, maybe it'll save you from this happening. A beautiful, beautiful fuse-like chain reaction slowly burning away and melting those wind turbines. Horrible to see. Always a tragedy when that starts happening. Just watching your wind turbines slowly melt away. There we go. Looks like we're ready to start getting aggressive over here. The blue team with such a crazy advantage this entire game, but they just never capitalized on it. I think their morale was broken. I feel like the spirit of the blue team was broken. I thought they had it in the bag. I really did. This one has completely turned around on me as this joint push effort from virtually everybody on the red team here. We had the maroon, the hot pink, the brown, the red, and the light pink commanders all contributing forces towards this push, and now they're making their way directly towards one of the last bastions of technology here. The fusion has fallen for the Seafoam Green Commander, as well as tons of the build power. Heavy tanks trying to clean up as much of this as possible. It's a lot of hounds, though. How much metal and hounds do we have there? 2,417 metal minus the 17 metal for the tick there. Going up against a single heavy tank. Don't think it stands a chance. And just like that, the hounds are in the back line. Never a good thing to have enemy hounds in your back line. T2 Lab under siege at this point. And I think the red team has done it. My goodness. Overcoming total collapse. And I think the red team has managed to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Similarly, the blue team clutching defeat from the jaws of victory here as hounds start to blast away at tons of the resource generation. We have the metal extractors falling, wind turbines once again chain reacting in the background here. And somehow, some way, shell shockers, 30 minutes into the game here, managing to blow up advanced solar panels. Something I never thought I'd ever have to say, but there you go. Shell shockers as assault units. Cursed and scuffed. That's what that is. Yeah, looks like Slot is super dead. Single constructor remains, but not for long. There it goes. Up in smoke, and that's the last we'll see of the Seafoam Green Commander. At the very least, as far as production goes. We do have a couple of heavy tanks just kind of being chilling around the map. Laza, the last stalwart defender of a dead empire. Okay, we're in a good position here. Oh, this could be huge. Yeah, nice position right there. D-guns are enormous taking down those bulls. My goodness, what was that? 8 bulls going down right there? Nearly 8,000 metal. Something like 7,000 metal going down right there. Beautifully done from Laza. Absolutely turning the tide on this northern side. But while we're watching that, the APHIS right here for Fenny Barca does explode in a glorious burst of energy, light, sound, and thermonuclear radiation, sending shockwaves through the blue economy. I would like to point out at this point that the red team, is suffering immensely. I was going to point out the economic advantage, but why don't we just watch this Marauder run by instead? Properly spaced out wind turbines, less prone to chain reacting, but still slightly prone to chain reacting. Not that it matters when you're facing a Marauder. Wind turbine versus Marauder, I think I'll take the Marauder any day. And there we go. What a huge counterattack right now. My goodness, the entire northern side for the blue team has crumbled, but it's bought enough time for a T3 transition and Marauders to head across the base, or across the map, pardon me, into the bases of the commanders on the other side of the map. We do have T2 being pulled desperately here. Solar Energy trying to get into position to D-gun as well. We have ticks available, though. Yep, ticks are great for scouting those commanders and allowing those Marauders to avoid them. Beautifully, beautifully done. There's the Marauders popping the base right here of the brown commander, Big O. And we have Solar Energy now suffering the barrage of bullets from those Marauders blasting apart that commander. Beautifully, beautifully done. My goodness, what a back and forth. Yeah, we noticed. We noticed the Marauders in the backline. Thank you for pointing it out, though, in case anybody else didn't see. There was a couple of them in the backline of the red team here. Beautiful, beautiful play. Primatamum definitely saving this match from complete destruction right here. With everybody dying on the northern side, it was now or never, and he chose now. And there we go. Marauder tearing apart everything for the red team. What a beautiful, beautiful collapse right there. I was worried we weren't going to capitalize on the southern side. It turns out we were capitalizing a huge T3 advantage. Tons and tons of Marauders ready to move across the map, and just like that, all the production is gone, save for this very, very far forward facility right here for the red commander. We do have Starlights heading back to try and save all this. I don't think it's enough against how many? 21 Marauders in total? My goodness. Everything is dead for the red team, save for the last final bastion. And I think we might as well watch it go down in its glory. Ironically, the red team actually still on 2 commanders here. Not sure where the other one is. Cloaked somewhere, I'm sure. Oh, there it is. Big O. Kind of parked southern of the of Shepherd there. Here come the Marauder, though. The Marauder and the ticks. The problem with the ticks, of course, is that they fire a laser beam that your shield will not deflect. And there's the commander. We found the commander. Yep, the Marauder jumping in on him immediately. Oh, it's tricky. You gotta get them within range. Oh, and the E-converters pop, sending ripples through the build power as well. You gotta get them within range of the commander, but not so close that they get degunned. Commander hiding behind the shields over here. That's quite cheeky as well. There's some pitbull turrets as well to blast apart a lot of this stuff. Commander down to 23%. Big O still holding strong here, but I think all hope is lost. At this point, it's just one last big stand right here for the red team. The final island of technological innovation. The last bastion of any sort of T2 anywhere on the map right here for the red team is the red commander. Those Starlights are pretty good. It's worth noting. Good enough to stop a whole bunch of Marauder running through? I don't think so. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. It's times like these when you have to appreciate a good old-fashioned base race. I call them yin-yang matches where one side swings and the other side swings, and it's essentially who can hold out the longest. And in this case, there was no chance the red team was going to be able to hold out against those Marauder. And now we have the Razorback marching forward, which are also quite good. The Wolverines trying to snipe the commander here. Oh, don't tell me. Oh, don't tell me the Wolverines get the commander sniped. No, they won't. Starlight, at the end of the day, will be the one that manages to snipe that commander. Razorback pushing up this hillside right here, blasting apart whatever it can. There we go, targeting the T2 lab. We're ready to target down that commander here as well. The last commander of the red team, falling rapidly, and boom goes the base, securing the victory for the blue team. What a nail-biter of a match. I definitely didn't see that one coming. I thought for sure the blue had thrown their lead way out the window, but luckily, Primatamum had invested well and managed to capitalize on their early game advantage. Beautiful, beautiful game of Beyond All Reason. I absolutely enjoyed it, and I sure hope you did too. Feel free to check out the Discord, link down below in the description section in case you'd like to send replays that you had that are particularly interesting or otherwise epic games of Beyond All Reason. And I sure hope you have a great rest of your day. I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.